Okay, I'm gonna move forward with lunch. I've got a big Mexican theme going, and to go with everything, I'm making chili con queso dip. I love chili con queso. It's technically a dip, and I'm gonna take some chips for the guys to eat it with, but it's also gonna be part of the whole spread. They can spoon it over the chicken, whatever it is on their plate. I love this stuff. I chopped up a large yellow onion, and I've been browning it in just a little bit of vegetable oil, and I added a whole roll, a pound of breakfast sausage. It's hot sausage, and this is what sets the chili con queso apart from the regular stuff, which is usually just a cheese dip. This has meat in it, it's got some chilies. This stuff is very habit forming, so enter at your own risk. Okay, I've got the sausage all broken up. Now, the key ingredient in any chili con queso, of course, is cheese, and I use this stuff that needs no introduction at all. And I'm just gonna cut it up into big cubes. I have a lot of practice with this. My kids love this stuff, my husband loves it. I make chili con queso anytime there's a big football game going on. I'm just cutting this into big squares, and then this is gonna go right into the pan with the sausage. Now, I'll break up the cubes and just throw this right in. I'm gonna turn the heat to low. I don't want it to burn. That's the beauty of this stuff. It melts a lot more smoothly than any other cheese you can find. Okay, now I'll just stir this in and let it start to melt. Okay, and while it melts, I'll chop up a fresh jalapeno just to add some nice heat. I'll cut off the top and bottom, and I'll cut it into quarters. Now, so it's not too overwhelming spice-wise, I'll cut out the membranes and get rid of most of the seeds. You do want the queso to have a little bit of spice, but not too much. And then I'll just slice up the jalapeno and dice it up. Okay, the jalapenos are nice and finely diced. Now, the cheese is looking absolutely perfect. It's creamy and dreamy and divine, just what I expected it to be. Now, another essential ingredient to chili con queso is a can of tomatoes with diced chilies. And I put the juice in because that's where a lot of the flavor is. But this also gives the chili con queso great texture, nice bits of tomato and chili. I love the green chili component, so I also add another couple of cans of just diced green chilies. Of course, you can roast your own chilies, peel them, dice them, but this is so much easier. Okay, stir that around, and then for heat, I'll add the diced jalapenos. All right, I'll just make sure it's all stirred together. It looks absolutely wonderful. Great with chips, great with most anything. Cheesy meatball subs. So I poured some marinara sauce into a baking dish, and these are cheesy meatballs. So I have squares of mozzarella cheese, cubes of mozzarella cheese, and I got some ready-made meatballs, and these are pork and beef. So I'm just gonna press this piece of mozzarella right into the center of the meatball, and then just use my fingers to kind of enclose the cheese. So I'm gonna keep making these meatballs. Okay, I got the meatballs stuffed, and I put them into the marinara sauce. These are gonna bake at 425 degrees for about 22 to 24 minutes until they're totally cooked. And in the meantime, I'm gonna start making a cheese sauce that's gonna go on top of the cheesy meatball subs. So I have a saucepan with butter that I melted, some flour, salt, and pepper. The roux is all cooked, and I'm gonna add some milk and stir this together. And it was so hot that it's already starting to bubble. That didn't take long at all. So I'm gonna turn the heat down, and I'm gonna add a bunch of mozzarella cheese. This is a cheesy, cheesy cheese sauce, and some grated Parmesan. Give it a chance to melt. And I have some sub rolls. I'm gonna put them kind of face down on the grill pan. All right, look at these meatballs. So you can see the little grill marks on the top of the sub, just to give it flavor. And I'll go ahead and get the meatballs on here. Whoa, my goodness. I'm gonna do 3 meatballs per sub. And then definitely get spoonfuls of the marinara. Banana peppers, which I think make any sort of sub sandwich delicious. Next, You can use as little or as much as your heart tells you to do. Some Parmesan. And I like a bit of green just to set off that gorgeous cheesy sauce. How does it look?
It's delicious.
I can't even close it. Chicken spinach artichoke lasagna. One of my favorite recipes to freeze. So I'm starting with a mixture of onion, garlic, and rosemary. And I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And I had a little butter and oil in the skillet. So I'm gonna give this mixture a stir and let it start to release all the incredible flavor. So I'm gonna let this keep cooking, and I'm gonna make the ricotta mixture for the lasagna. So a whole bunch of ricotta, and I'll add some egg yolks and a very generous amount of jarred pesto, and then some parsley, quite a bit. And I'll add some oregano that's chopped really fine, plenty of salt and pepper. So I'm just gonna stir this around and fold it until it's totally mixed together. Okay, this ricotta mixture looks absolutely incredible. There is so much pesto in here. So back to the pot with all the onion and garlic. It is looking great. Oh my goodness. It smells divine. So I'm gonna sprinkle some flour over this mixture. This is going to be the sauce. Now I wanna cook the flour for a good minute just so it doesn't have that raw flour flavor. In goes the milk and cream. While you stir that veggie mixture that's coated in flour, and then I'm adding heavy cream. Okay, I just need to let this cook for about 5 minutes to thicken. All right, this sauce is absolutely glorious. So I've got a bunch of rotisserie chicken, and it's shredded really fine, and it goes in along with a bunch of Parmesan cheese. And then frozen spinach, I let it thaw, and then I drained all the water out of it. Okay, and then last but not least, some quartered artichoke hearts. This looks like the most incredible spinach artichoke dip you could possibly make. And the chicken just sends it over the top. All righty. Ooh, this looks so good. So I'm gonna turn off the heat, and I'm gonna go ahead and build the lasagna. So I'm using these disposable loaf pans. And first thing I'm gonna do is get about a 1/4 cup of the sauce and put it right into the bottom of the pan, and grab a little bit of this ricotta mixture. Okay, so after you spread the ricotta mixture on the noodle, I have some grated fontina cheese, and I'll just sprinkle it right over. So then I'm gonna roll up the lasagna. All right, so look at that. That is 1 lasagna roll. So I'm gonna do 5 more just like this and fill the pan. Okay, now that the lasagna noodles are built and rolled up, as you may have guessed, I will top them with this glorious chicken spinach artichoke sauce. Be generous, there's a lot of it. All right, and then finally, you've got to top the whole thing with cheese because this is lasagna. So I'm putting sliced mozzarella on top. I just bake it straight from the freezer at 350 degrees for 40 minutes. Then for stage 2, I remove the foil, put it back in, and bake it for a further 10 minutes. Then when the cheese is melted, I take them out. Fried cheese on a stick. So I'm gonna make a batter to dip the cheese in before I fry. So what better thing to use than pancake mix? So it's pancake mix, and I'm gonna add a cup of yellow cornmeal, and it's 2 cups of pancake mix. A little bit of salt, and I'll stir this together, and I'll pour in about 3 cups of cold water and stir as it goes. But I mean, whether you're frying like chocolate sandwich cookies or cheese or hot dogs and making corn dogs, this is such a great batter to use. All right, I got that mixed together. So I have a beaten egg, and it goes in last. All right, that is totally mixed together. So, are you ready to see some cheese on a stick being fried?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I stuck a wooden skewer all the way through to the very end just so the cheese has plenty of structure. And I'm actually gonna check the temperature of, oh, it's looking good. Boy, we could make all sorts of things with this batter. We could make like funnel cakes with it. So I'm gonna dip and just get as much batter on the cheese as possible, and I'm gonna bring the bowl over because this needs to go straight into the oil immediately. And the stick goes in and everything. So I just use a spoon and kind of start spooning it over the other side, just so the batter doesn't escape, because that batter kind of tends to want to escape and go elsewhere. So I'll get another one in, and no cheese on a stick is supposed to look like the others. They all have a unique look about them. Whoop. Okay, we'll just do 3 for now. I think that's enough to babysit. And spoon it around, and then I'm gonna get some tongs and turn this one over. Try not to melt the tongs.
Oh my, golden
They
brown.
fry really quickly, and there's a reason for that. You want to get them fried before the cheese starts to melt. So you want the batter to be done on the outside before the cheese starts to ooze out. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Forgot to spoon the oil over that one. Now, at the State Fair, they have huge vats of oil. They just drop it in, but we have limitations here on Drummond Ranch. There we go. Yay!
Come on, cheese on a stick.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give these about 20 more seconds, and then I'll take them out.
Oh my.
That got a little bit crazy, that one.
Mom, you really outdid yourself.
Thank you, Paige. All right,
my
and then you definitely need to let this sit, but, oh, shoot, I forgot the whole point of this. Okay, pretend it's before these were fried. This is how I've done it before, so.
And then you drink it?
No, then you dunk like this, okay?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
And then it goes in. Whoop, that was
Dang,
hot.
that looks so much better.
Thanks. All right, I have a little dish, and what better thing to serve with fried mozzarella than marinara sauce? Okay, and then I'm gonna pick the prettiest ones. Woo, still pretty hot there on the stick part. Oh my gosh, they look so good.
So good.
I'm gonna do 3.
Oh my, Mom, that looks
They look
delicious.
amazing, don't they? Fried cheese on a stick. I mean, sometimes they look a little prettier at the State Fair, but I'll bet these taste every bit as good. There's really only one way we can know for sure.
Oh my
Let me see.
goodness.
That is good.
Is it good?
Good.
Scalloped potatoes. So I'm adding some sliced Yukon Gold potatoes to a big skillet. I had some melted butter in there. Sprinkle with salt and pepper. Now, there's nothing complicated about this potato recipe, but it does kind of go in stages. I'm gonna add some very thinly sliced onions, and you want them to be thin because you want the onions to have plenty of opportunity, not just to soften, but to really, really cook with the potatoes. Okay, so now I just have to stir and start cooking the potatoes and onions. I'm gonna do that for about 6 to 7 minutes before I move on to the next stage. Okay, so the onions and potatoes are starting to soften. So for the next stage of cooking, I'm gonna add some garlic. And then I'm gonna add quite a bit of heavy cream because scalloped potatoes is definitely a creamy recipe. All right, and then I just need to stir a little bit just to make sure all the potatoes and onions are all coated in the cream. So now I'm gonna put the lid on and let it cook for another 6 or 7 minutes. All right, I'm gonna turn the heat off. This has been simmering away. And look, I'm not even gonna stir it at this point because the potatoes are looking absolutely amazing. They're very, very tender, and I don't wanna create kind of a mashed, mushed potato situation. So this is getting ready to go into the broiler, but first, I'm actually gonna add some strips of ham. And this is totally optional. You can also do cooked bacon if you want. Scalloped potatoes and ham.
It's a classic.
I mean, music to Alex's ears right there. And then a whole bunch of sharp cheddar cheese. And by whole bunch, I mean all the sharp cheddar cheese I could find in my fridge. But that's what scalloped potatoes are all about. At least in my world, they are. Scalloped potatoes, by definition, don't actually have to have cheese, but in my world, they do. All righty, now let's get this in the broiler, under the broiler, I should say. And there's really no hard and fast time. I'm just gonna put it in there and watch it, and then I'll pull it out when the cheese is melted and bubbly. I have high hopes.
Wow.
Oh gosh, look. Ooh, that's perfect. I wanted to kind of get it past that initial melted stage and make sure that the cheese and the edges of the potatoes got a little bit of brown.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what to say. Now, it's perfect just like it is, and the great thing about this dish is that you can pull it out 30, 45 minutes before dinner and it'll still be perfect. It's actually a little better if you let it sit before you serve. But to serve, I like to have some fun, and you can wait and do this right before or just do it straight out of the oven. Big old pile of sour cream and a whole bunch of sliced green onions. And then it's almost kind of like a baked potato, scalloped potato, casserole, whatever. But how good does that look? I started by adding a whole jar of arrabbiata sauce to an iron skillet, and this is incredibly spicy. So to add to the spice, I'm gonna add several peppers from a jar of hot cherry peppers. And then I'll kind of shake just to spread everything out. So see what we got going on here, Paige? And I'm not gonna mix the peppers in. I want them to stay on top. So I am gonna take this opportunity to tell everybody about this amazing new thing I discovered in supermarkets. And they are actually formed meatballs and they're not frozen.
Wow.
Whoa.
Blew my mind when I knew these existed. When you're looking for a really fast, family-friendly recipe, these are awesome. And then if you're a crafty kind of parent, you can wash this in soapy water and use it for a craft. I am not a crafty parent. So I am going to put these in the oven, and I'm gonna bake them at 425 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes until the meatballs are sizzly, and then I'll show you how we finish these up.
Yum.
Look at, how amazing do those look? Oh, they smell fantastic. I can actually smell the spice. I can smell the heat.
Oh, goodness.
I have a sense. So I'm gonna bump it up by putting even more crushed red peppers all over. The spice just kind of sends me into a tizzy. So there's a second stage of baking, and I'm gonna put little discs of mozzarella
Yum.
on top of each meatball. Don't worry if some of them fall.
They're like hats.
Yeah, they are. Little hats of mozzarella, as Mauricio said. So now I'm just gonna take this and stick it under the broiler until the cheese is melted. It's gonna take about 3 minutes. Remember those cute little top hats? Well, now they're like sun hats. They have cute little brims.
Aww.
Oh, this looks amazing. So I'm gonna top with some basil. Now I'm gonna show you how to serve this. Gotta get a spoon. Yes, look, Alex, come watch. Which one should I get?
That one is beautiful.
How about this one? Look, look at that spicy pepper that came out with it. Oh my. They almost look like little fried eggs because of that mozzarella. And then just a hunk of bread to kind of sop up the sauce. And I have just a simple green salad, nothing fancy. Oh, spicy, baked, cheesy meatballs. I think that's what we call it. I have to taste this. I have to see if the spice is all there. Oh boy, it's hot, spice aside. Wow, that is delicious. I've just got ground beef and sausage browned. I'm gonna add a few more things. A can of diced tomatoes, juice and all, and a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. Gotta have plenty of garlic in any lasagna dish. And then some salt and pepper. Keep things really seasoned for the season. I'm gonna stir this all together, and then it needs to simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna make the cheese mixture for the lasagna dip, and it is just delicious and everything you would imagine. Ricotta cheese and cottage cheese and Parmesan cheese. I've got about 1/3 cup of the cottage cheese and ricotta and about 1/4 cup of the Parmesan. And then I wanna make this really herby and delicious, so I've got some chopped basil and chopped parsley, and some salt and pepper. And then I'll just smush this all together. Okay, that is all mixed together. So now I'm gonna assemble the dip. It is a lot of fun. I'm gonna start with a layer of the meat sauce. I'll add half of it to the bottom of a square baking dish. Now I'll add dollops of the cheese mixture. Now, as if that's not enough cheese, I am gonna add a layer of grated mozzarella. Okay, now I'll repeat the layers one more time, the rest of the meat mixture. All right, and another layer of the creamy ricotta mixture, the rest of the mozzarella, and that's all there is to assembling it. Now I've got to bake it at 425 degrees for 15 minutes. I made chips out of lasagna noodles. Here's what I did. Noodle chips coming right up. I cut boiled and cooled lasagna noodles into triangles, put all 80 of them into a bowl, then added 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/3 cup of grated Parmesan, a tablespoon of chopped fresh oregano, mixed everything together, split the chips between 2 sheet pans, baked them at 375 degrees for 20 minutes, then took the crispy wonders out to cool. Who knew you could make chips out of cooked pasta? My oh my, that opens up a whole new world for me. All right, now I want to sprinkle some of these beautiful herbs over the top. Now, I better take a taste. I want to make sure I'm not steering you wrong. It's the responsible thing to do. I am making pepperoni pizza queso. You heard me. It truly is the best of both worlds. I'm using flavors from both dishes in a big way. This is truly the perfect dish for game day, and my family happens to be hopelessly devoted to it. Now I'm gonna start by sauteing onions with 3 colors of bell pepper, green, red, and yellow. You can use whatever color you want. And then I'm gonna stir this around. Now these need to cook for about 5 minutes until they start to soften. So while that happens, I'm gonna prep the cheeses. I have 5 of them. First, I'll cube the processed cheese, 8 ounces, and then grate 4 ounces of cheddar, 4 ounces of mozzarella, the same amount of fontina, and it's just a matter of taking the lid off for 2 ounces of Parmesan. You know what I say, why have 1 cheese when you can have 5? That's pretty much my approach in life. Okay, the onions and peppers are nice and soft. So I've got a couple of more non-cheese things to add. I've got a can of diced tomatoes and green chilies. I didn't drain it, it's juice and all. And a small can of diced green chilies, just to really drive home that queso flavor. Now I need to stir this around until it totally heats up before I add the cheeses. I would say game day food is probably the #1 category of food in my house. It's a favorite of Bryce and Todd's for obvious reasons. They are high school athletes. We're getting close to football season, and boy, are we excited. Okay, this is all hot. So I'm gonna add the first cheese, the most important cheese in my opinion when it comes to queso. It's this good old processed cheese, and you've just gotta have it to get that really creamy queso consistency. It's really unbelievable to me that Bryce is already in high school football. He's a junior. That means he only has 2 more years left of high school football. And by the time Bryce goes to college, Todd's just gonna have 2 years left. So the time is ticking away. Okay, the first cheese is just about melted. So now I can add the rest. The sharp cheddar and mozzarella and fontina. And then finally some grated Parmesan. And then I just need to stir until all the cheeses are melted. When you start out with melting the processed cheese, it just kind of sucks that other cheese in and melts it almost instantly. Oh, wow, this is looking fantastic. Now I can tell it needs just a little bit of thinning out. So I've got some room temperature milk on hand, and I'll just add about 1/4 cup or so, and I'll stir it until everything's melted and everything is hot and bubbly. Okay, almost there. It's looking great. So this would be a good time for me to add a couple more things. Some diced fresh tomato and some diced pepperoni. Here's where the pepperoni pizza comes in. Now for a little spice, I'm also adding some diced jalapeno. I scraped out the seeds and membrane so it wouldn't be overpowering in terms of spice. Wow, this is my kind of queso. I don't like queso that's kind of too plain, too much of the cheese. I like it to be really chunky, and look at this. Look at that texture. Ooh boy. I've also got some fresh oregano, and I'm just gonna take the easy road and tear off little pieces. Okay, stirred in the oregano, and I think that's just the perfect amount. So now it's about serving this up. You wanna make sure it is piping hot when you pour it into the bowl, because you want it to stay hot and not set up immediately. I got that pretty full. I want to garnish the top and make it pretty, so I'll add a few more diced tomatoes. And then some more of the diced pepperoni, just so you know what this is. And to make things extra pretty and extra tasty, I'll tear some basil leaves over the top. Emphasis on over the top. Now, you can serve anything with the queso. You can do chunks of French bread. I'm just gonna throw all caution to the wind and serve it with nacho chips. No plain tortilla chips will do for this dip. It is a flavor explosion. All right, guys, pepperoni pizza queso. So delicious. I'm making Bryce's absolute favorite food on earth, mac and cheese. I'm gonna put a little bit of an Italian spin on it. He's gonna absolutely love it. Now I'm just gonna get the macaroni on to boil. I've got a pound box. Now while the macaroni cooks, I'll get started on the cheese sauce. Just turn the heat on medium, and then into the pot, I'll pour a cup of heavy cream. This is definitely a treat. Very, very rich and decadent. And then to the cream, I'll add just a couple of tablespoons of butter. And then while that starts to melt, I'm gonna throw a garlic clove in here. And then as it melts, the garlic will infuse the butter and cream and just add to the deliciousness of the mac and cheese. Okay, while the cream keeps heating up, I'll get started on the cheese. Now, one of the cheeses I love to put in this Italian mac and cheese is goat cheese. And I'm just using a fork to crumble it into chunks. And now for the grating cheeses, I'm gonna start with fontina. I love using fontina for mac and cheese. It's really, really creamy, really smooth. I'm gonna grate about a ½ cup of this, and then I've still got Parmesan and Romano to go. Okay, got the Romano grated, so all the cheese is ready, and now I can pull this lusciousness together. First thing I wanna do is get the garlic clove out of the pot, and then all the cheese goes in. The fontina and Parmesan, the wonderful sharp Romano, the incredibly heavenly goat cheese. Okay, now before I even stir it, I'm gonna drain the macaroni, and I'll just put it right into the pot, and it'll help melt the cheese even quicker. There's a little bit of water on the macaroni, so that'll help the sauce with the consistency. I love this sauce. A lot of times when I make mac and cheese, I start with a white sauce and then add the cheese. This is so much easier. It's basically just cream and cheese, macaroni, stir it all together. Okay, give it a little stir. Now it doesn't need too much salt because there is so much sharp cheese in here, so I'll just add a little bit, but plenty of black pepper. Now I'll just stir it around and let the hot macaroni do the job. Okay, it is absolutely perfect. Now just to give it a little brightness, I'll mince up some parsley. I can act like it's a vegetable. Then I won't feel so guilty about all that cheese. Okay, now I'll just stir the parsley in. I mean, this is a work of art. It should go in a museum. Pretty good. How do you like that mac and cheese?
It's good.
I had a feeling you'd like it. The guys are having a big morning of working cattle over on Tim's ranch today, and I'm making them a rib-stickin' ranch-style lunch. They are gonna be hungry when they're finished. To go with the ribs, I'm making twice-baked potato casserole. It's pretty much everything that's wonderful about twice-baked potatoes, but in casserole form. Now, of course, twice-baked potatoes in any form have to have bacon, so I fried up a bunch, and I just need to chop it up. You know, you can use store-bought bacon bits for twice-baked potatoes, but I think nothing is like bacon you fry yourself, particularly when you're cooking for cowboys. They detect things like this. They might run me out of town if they find out I used artificial bacon pieces. Okay, I got the bacon all chopped. I'll let that sit for a sec. Now I've got to add a lot of butter to this casserole because I baked a lot of potatoes. So I've got 4 sticks of softened butter. I want it to be really, really soft. Then when the warm potato mixture goes in, it melts really quickly. Okay, and 4. Then a whole container of sour cream. Everyone likes sour cream with potatoes, let's face it. Okay, now for the potatoes. I've got 16 big baking potatoes, and I rubbed them in a little bit of vegetable oil and then baked them at 400 for about an hour. They're nice and tender, very hot. So I'll just cut it in half. Ooh, nice and hot. And I'll use a little towel so it won't be too hot in my hands. And I like to use just a big tablespoon to slowly scrape the insides out. Okay, that's the last potato scooped, and I've got nice little flecks of potato skin all throughout. So now I'll season all of this. It's a lot of potato, so it needs a good amount of salt, and of course, plenty of black pepper. And then I also like to add some seasoned salt. It just adds a few different flavors, a little bit of extra saltiness. All right, that looks great. Now I'll throw in all of this delicious bacon. Okay, now the green onions go in. I also grated a lot of cheese, a couple of cups of cheddar jack, and I'll sprinkle that over the top. And then I definitely need some milk in here so that everything will mix together well. So I'll just pour in a couple of cups of milk. All right, now I just need to break out my muscles. I've got a potato masher, and I'll just go right in and smush all this together. This takes a little while. There are a lot of ingredients in here. The potatoes don't have to be completely smooth, but I don't want there to be any huge chunks. Okay, looks perfect. Get the extra off. Now I'm gonna put all of this into a big foil container. I think it'll all fit. Whenever I'm making twice-baked potatoes for a crowd, it can get a little much to refill the skins after the mixture is done. This is the perfect solution. Just put it into a big pan, warm it up, and it's ready to serve. This looks amazing. There is not a cowboy on the ranch or a kid on the ranch that won't go crazy for this. Okay, now I'll just smooth out the surface. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is a great dish to make if you're having a big party because you can actually make it the day ahead and pop it in the oven when you're ready. I wasn't that organized. I did it the same day. Okay, now I'm gonna sprinkle more cheese over the top. The potato mixture has plenty inside, but I like for the top to have a nice layer of melted cheese. This is cheddar jack, but you can use all cheddar, all jack, or you could do pepper jack. That's always delicious too. Okay, now this just needs to go back into the oven for about 30 minutes until it's warmed through. Cheesy twice-baked potato casserole.